Albert Einstein famously said, "You can't use an old map to explore a new world." And he was right when he was talking about the frontiers of new science. Yet today, we're also facing unknown territory, and the same holds true. We can't use an old map of mental models of how to succeed and to create value in a rapidly changing, disrupted landscape. Our brains, under stress and pressure, the first thing they reach for is predict and control, because it anchors our nervous systems and grounds us, but it just brings us back to an energetic set point that was appropriate for the past and may or may not be appropriate for the future. So when we tighten our grip on trying to predict and control, we actually try to take this rapidly changing, highly disruptive landscape and try to fit it into a predetermined box, which may or may not be for the highest and best for our growth and our development as individuals, teams, or in organizations. So the path to greater impact begins, in my mind, when we can loosen our grip on our need for predicting and controlling. This is hard to break as a habit because, number one, neurologically, we're kind of hardwired towards that. And number two, we're talking about facing into the unknown and creating new value in new ways, creating a new map. Imagine the explorers in days gone by bringing their maps to the new world and trying to overlay that sensibility in a new space. It didn't work. Just as today, when we try to bring our mental maps of leadership into this rapidly changing space, it may not work. Innovation circles, creatives, design thinkers, artists, they have known for decades that when we want to have greater impact, we're likely going to have to do something new. And whenever you're going to do something new, you're going to likely run into unexpected problems. You're going to face the unknown. There's going to be a little bit of chaos. There's going to be a little bit of messiness inherent in it. And for those of us who are trained to predict and control, those of you who have MBAs, those of you who are engineers, those of you who like to put everything into a nice, neat little bento box or spreadsheet, it can feel risky, right? To not be able to predict and control. However, when we think about facing into new possibilities and creating greater impact, we've got to invite the messiness in, a little bit of it, so that we can explore and find, through experimentation, one of the best paths forward. Two clients that I'm working with right now. One is trying to refine their KPIs, trying to refine how they predict and how they're controlling so that they are attuning to the most strategic levers to predict growth and mitigate any risk. That's smart, right? We want to kind of update constantly. We should be doing that anyway. We shouldn't wait for disruption to lead us into that space. But they're trying to do this in a highly smart, artificially intelligence, predictive analytics sort of way. Another client is actually turning analytics on their head. They are challenging and questioning every single typical measure that would traditionally drive growth. They're flipping it on its head, and they're having teams co-design and work with what they believe are more customer-centric objectives and KPIs that they can then measure, track more frequently, and adjust. So I don't care if it's agile, or if it's design thinking, or if it's design sprints or lean startup, any of these methodologies, they all invite the same kind of experimentation. This space to be able to test, to rapidly prototype, rapidly gain feedback, adjust, and keep moving. So many traditional organizations today, though, are, in my observation, afraid of going to that space. And so their leaders, of which you may be one in the midst of a larger system, feel somehow trapped within these older, traditional, slower models of measuring progress that are designed to predict and control. And indeed, you may have a leader like in one of my organizations that I work with, where a new leader has come in and added more metrics and added frequency of evaluation in these metrics, which could be exactly what is needed to get more precise with the predictive analytics, but it also holds within it a risk. Because if we begin increasing out of a need to kind of tighten our control, guess what happens to the energy of those individuals inside the system to create and design some kind of breakthrough? Any strength overused can become a weakness. And so this is the challenge that this particular organization faces. Bottom line, in today's rapidly changing landscape, if you don't know where you're going to create greater impact, you're losing ground fast. And some organizations like Novartis are already realizing this, and they are tossing out performance ratings and moving to measures of impact. How do you generate impact, and how do you actually leave an impact in any role that you're at? If you don't know what that even means, you don't know what your customer points of friction are, you don't know where you currently add value and what in the changing landscape might mean that you need to change it up in order to create even greater value going forward, you're losing ground. So the challenge today is, do you know your customer points of friction? Where are they experiencing things like limited access, broken trust, redundant intermediaries, a sense of complexity when simplicity would suffice because things are moving so quickly? Where can you help those whom you serve to learn as fast as the world is changing? When you can zero in on some ways that you might be able to unlock greater value, greater impact for those that you serve, then design an experiment. All those methodologies that I mentioned just a minute ago, from design thinking to lean startup to agile, what have you, they all at heart have this idea of experimentation. Experimentation helps us mitigate our risks, it helps us test ideas, and frankly, it helps us keep ideas alive in organizations where the organizational immune system might just kill ideas before they get enough momentum. You know, that idea of that's not the way we do things around here is so alive and well in so many organizations, we never get any experiments going forward. So experiments by definition are low risk, low cost, and highly generative in terms of what we can learn or the feedback that we can gain from them. I wonder, what impact opportunities exist in your world right now that you could assess? Where are customers having some point of friction? They've told us repeatedly that the way that we're trying to present something or sell them something or offer something is not working. It needs to be repackaged, or it needs to be delivered in a new way, or there's a disconnect between how our product interfaces with another. What are those disconnections? Where are there opportunities for greater impact? What mindset, what assumption might we need to challenge? And where can we create a little space outside of our traditional grip on predict and control to allow a little messiness in this experimentation, just to be able to validate our hypotheses or disprove it, get the learning, and keep on moving? I think this is part of a broader challenge for us as leaders today. If we want to evolve in the face of all this rapidly changing landscape, we need to be both clear on what our vision is, what our metrics are, and embracing a little bit of experimentation and chaos. So how do you be both clear and embracing chaos? You have to learn how to be clear in the ultimate objective that you're after. At the same time, you invite and inculcate a spirit of curiosity in your team, in your workplace. So the challenge for you today is, where are there some customer points of friction? What might you imagine could be greater impact to serve those that you serve? And what kind of experiment might you design that's low cost, low risk, and highly generative that could help you and your team begin to flex the muscle of facing into the unknown? I really look forward to your ideas. This is something I work with all of my leaders on, both in executive coaching, one-on-one, and executive team engagements and organizational work, but also in my accelerator, Recalibrate for Impact, where leaders across different industries are choosing fascinating impact challenges, using one another for peer coaching, and refining their ideas, and then launching experiments in their areas of the world, their industries, and different organizational contexts. And then we're sharing the learning back together. It's creating momentum and energizing those around them to look for more opportunities for evolving their sense of impact. I invite you to do the same reflection and comment below with anything that you learn along the way. Would love to hear your stories.